What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I am sitting down with Tyler Harden of TTJH Sports for our mini-series on our page called We're Picking Teams. We draft a quarterback, running back, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, defensive lineman or edge rusher, linebacker, safety, and corner. We line up the teams every week to see whose players do better, and if you have more players that do better, you win the week. It is conference championship week. The season has flown by. It's kind of sad. It honestly is kind of sad, but man, this is the best conference championship week that I can remember in a while, I feel like. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I just got to give myself a round of applause for making the comeback, the long-awaited comeback. I think I was down 0-5 at some point, 0-5-1. I remember that was one week we tied somehow. I still don't really understand that. But yeah, I mean, I ended up winning the regular season 7-5-1. So congratulations to me, humbly, of course. But yeah, I mean, it was a real fun regular season, man. I feel like we just got to look back and reminisce everything. Of course, last regular season with the Pac-12. So definitely going to miss that conference. But man, like you just said, a ton of good games, kind of a ton of good conference games this weekend. I can't really decide which one is going to be the best, but speaking of the Pac-12, man, you got to highlight that one, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But man, we got some good teams as well. I feel like, not gonna lie, these are the two best teams we've had, the best matchup we've had in this series all season, and it makes sense because the best players on the best teams are going at it with each other this weekend, and man, it looks really fun.
Yeah, and like you said, the best of the best is finally getting to play, and honestly, a lot is on the line. And a lot of the teams are kind of based offensively, if you will. So let's just go on and dive straight into it. Tyler, who's highlighting your offense?
Yeah, so everyone's kind of paying attention to how the Georgias, the Michigans are going to do in their conference championships, and if Alabama can knock off Georgia, if a lot of eyes are on that Oregon Washington game, like we said. But a player that's playing in a conference championship that's been lighting it up this year, but he's on a team that doesn't get as much attention. Of course, Ollie Gordon. He had some Heisman hype at some point. I don't know how legitimate that was, but he's been legitimate all season, man. I mean, he's coming off a 5-touchdown game and a double overtime win at BYU. I mean, if that doesn't say enough, I don't really know what does. 3 touchdowns in the game before that. He had a little bit of a rut against UCF, which kind of made me hesitate picking him because I don't know, like, with the off chance of that happening again against a good Texas defense, we don't really know. But I'm taking my chance with Ollie Gordon. I feel like in a win, I feel like he'll definitely have a big role, but in a loss, I feel like he'll definitely have some good numbers as well. I feel like he's going to find the end zone at least a couple times against Texas, and he's been Oklahoma State's guy all season long. And I feel like in order to knock off Texas in the Big 12 championship, they're going to implement him a lot. So I feel like it's only right that Ollie Gordon is on my team this week.
Yeah, I love Ollie Gordon, but I don't love him this week. Obviously, and I know you're wishing for a big performance from him, and he's gonna have to have that kind of performance if he's gonna take down the number 1 defense in the Big 12. But you're not the only one who's going to need some superstar talent in order to win this week. And like you said, you came back and won 7-5 in the regular season. My team kind of felt like Colorado's season in a way. We started off strong, then we just it hit the fan, everything hit the fan. It just went all downhill from there. We looked good though at the beginning though, but like I said, we're both going to need some superstar talent on our teams to win. Highlighting my offense this week made probably the most notable highlight for the Alabama Crimson Tide of the season, and that is wide receiver Isaiah Bond coming through clutch for the Tide in the Iron Bowl. He's going to have the opportunity to really stamp his legacy as one of the Crimson Tide wide receivers who have been through that Saban program, and hopefully he helps in the demise of the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what Alabama team shows up against Georgia, because it's a very, I wouldn't say an unfamiliar position for Alabama, but they're the underdogs in this matchup. And I don't feel like Georgia's ever been the favorite when it comes to Georgia versus Alabama. Maybe not ever, but at least in recent years, rather. So it's a new position for both teams. And I'm really interested to see how, which teams show up on both sides, how that Georgia defense does. And that kind of carries into, my defensive player, my highlight, Tyke Smith. I think he's one of the most physical corners in the game right now. I mean, he's had over 5 total tackles in his last 5 games. So he's making hits all around the field. He's been a big part of Georgia's secondary, a huge transfer that they landed from West Virginia. So I feel like in a big time game like this, Tyke Smith is going to be one of those guys to step up on the defense, given his experience and everything. And I feel like Georgia, man, with players like him on the defense, it's going to be hard for that Alabama offense to kind of get going at certain points in time.
Yeah, Tyke Smith is one of those guys that it feels like every other play they're calling his name for making a defensive play for the Bulldogs. And, my guys are going to have to do that too. And one of the players for my defense that I wanted to highlight is freshman linebacker Anthony Hill. And I want to bring some recognition to T'Vondre Sweat as well. Both Texas defensive players. In order to stop a player like you have, Ollie Gordon, you got to load the box. And that's what Texas is going to have to do to win this game. Sweat can really clog the middle, which might force Gordon to the outside. And as we've seen, and anybody who's followed Anthony Hill's career, we know he can fly downhill to the ball. And we got one of the best running backs in college football with Ollie Gordon. He has the opportunity to make some big plays against the number 1 defense in the Big 12. So here's to hoping my boys get some stops this week.
Yeah, I kind of knew that you would come in with that play where offsetting Ollie Gordon. I mean, rightfully so. You have to do that with his stats, man. You have to do that. And T'Vondre Sweat, Anthony Hill are 2 guys that are definitely going to be a part of that. So, but man, that was another reason why I was so hesitant to pick a player like Ollie Gordon, which in most weeks I wouldn't hesitate at all. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. That game's going to be really good. I feel like now it doesn't get a lot of recognition because it was kind of like Texas versus whoever. But Oklahoma State, man, is a team that'll definitely put up a fight against your Longhorns.
Oh, definitely. And, against the number 1 defense of the conference, Ollie Gordon has I believe he has the opportunity to win the Doak Walker this weekend if he can pull it out.
No doubt. So, Josh, we've been, touching on a bunch of these games for championship weekend. It's an exciting weekend. I can't wait for it. My eyes are going to be glued to the TV. I'm going to be on my couch all afternoon, all day, pretty much. Just a classic college football Saturday, man. Gotta love it. So let's run through some of these games, man. Let's get our predictions, some quick picks here. Let's start off with the Conference USA Championship between New Mexico State and 25th ranked Liberty. Who you got in that one?
Well, Liberty lost Hugh Freeze to Auburn, and they were pretty good underneath Hugh Freeze, but it looks like they haven't missed a step, honestly. I got to go with Liberty on this one.
Yeah, Liberty right now, 12-0 on the season, 25th ranked in the AP top 25. So I feel like it only makes more sense that Liberty is going to pull off with the Conference USA Championship.
Most definitely. Now, let's dive into a game with 2 Heisman contenders at quarterback. Same night, Friday night, Oregon, Washington, Ducks, Huskies, Penix, Knicks. Who do you got?
I got Oregon in this one. I feel like Oregon is on a tear right now, and I feel like a lot of the attention is around Bo Nix, rightfully so. He's putting up a great fight for the Heisman Trophy. But man, I feel like Oregon as a whole right now is a team to be reckoned with. Ever since they did lose to Washington, I feel like they've just been blowing teams out left and right. So I feel like with that momentum going into a conference championship at a neutral site where the scores are kind of even now, Oregon pulls it off in a close one.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. I think Bo Nix has the opportunity to win the Heisman this weekend. I know that hurts for you hearing that with your quarterback, Jaden Daniels, down in Baton Rouge, but I do think Bo Nix has that opportunity to enact his revenge, if you will, on Washington and Michael Penix and hoist that Pac-12 championship trophy in the last year of the Pac-12 as we know it.
It's emotional. Hearing you say that, man, it's emotional. Pac-12 has always been fun. It's been a roller coaster ride for that conference, but seeing it unfold in a great way, capping it off in a great way, rather, it's gonna be nice.
Yeah, I'm so happy they're going out on a high note and not like every team being like 8-4. I'm so happy that they're going out with. If it were a 12-team playoff, they'd have 2 teams in it, and if it were, now that it's just 4 teams, they're gonna have the best representing them in there.
No doubt, no doubt. So let's move on to the Big 12 championship. Of course, your Longhorns are in that one. So asking you for your prediction might be a little bit unnecessary, but man, I got to hear it from you.
Well, it just feels good to be back. It feels good to be back with the opportunity to win the Big 12. I know kind of as of right now, we're sitting on the outside of the playoff race. The chance is there for them to get in if they can get past Oklahoma State. I do think they will, but I do think Oklahoma State's a opponent you have to respect. You have to respect them. They got players like Ollie Gordon who can make those big time plays, who can really kill you if you're not careful. And obviously, I'm picking the Longhorns. I'm locked in. I'm hoping out for the 11% that we make the playoffs that we were slated. But, you know, a Big 12 title was the goal for our last year in the Big 12. And hopefully we come away with that.
Yeah, these past few years, the Big 12 championship has always been really exciting. It's always come down to the last couple of plays. I mean, we look back last year and it was like a Max Duggan legacy game and stuff. I mean, they didn't pull out the win, but his performance will always be something that we kind of remember. And I'm going to go out on a limb here a little bit and say it's going to be the same thing for Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon, this is going to be a legacy game for him, and he's going to put a lot of people on watch if they weren't already. But it's a real tough pick, man. I got to go with Texas at the end of the day. I think Ollie Gordon's going to put on a show for Oklahoma State, but that defense on Texas is just going to be too much to go up against practically 1 or 2 guys on that Oklahoma State offense. So I'm going with Texas in a very close one, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Ollie Gordon's efforts are enough to bring the Cowboys a Big 12 championship. Now, how about the SEC championship, one of the premier games of the weekend that many could say between number 1 ranked Georgia and number 8 ranked Alabama. Who you got in that one?
As a Texas fan, I need Georgia to win, but it's roll tide from me on this pick. I gotta go with Alabama. I've seen this 2 years ago when Alabama went to 4 overtimes against Auburn, and everybody said, oh, Alabama's going to roll over against Georgia. They're going to get killed. And they came out and beat Georgia 41-24 in the SEC title game. Nick Saban in big moments, you got to go roll tide.
Yeah, no, that's a great take. And it's very true. Like you said, a little bit of a deja vu moment with that one. But man, I got to go with Georgia this year. That defense is so talented. That team is so talented. They've shown a little hints of weakness at this point throughout the season, but so has Alabama. I mean, take it for last week, for example. They let, a subpar, at most rather, Auburn team hang around with them until Jalen Milroe kind of pulled a rabbit out of his hat there and made an amazing play. But I think it's going to be Georgia. I think it'll be close. I wouldn't be surprised if, like you said, Nick Saban kind of, uses his expertise and brings the Tide to another SEC championship. But I just got to go with Georgia on this one, just from what we've seen all year long.
Yeah, Georgia is put together to beat Bama, and Bama's put together to beat Georgia. It doesn't matter what else they do, but they want to beat each other for sure.
How about the Big Ten championship between number 3 ranked Michigan and number 17 ranked Iowa? Who you got?
I got to go with Michigan. I just got to go with Michigan. I think Blake Corum will be too much for Iowa. I know Iowa's defense is great. I want to go with Michigan.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. I feel like most can both agree that the real Big Ten championship was last week. You're never guaranteed a win in the Big Ten, the actual Big Ten championship, but I feel like that Michigan-Ohio State game was just for more than just, a spot in the Big Ten championship. It was putting yourself in a really good position for the college football playoff and potentially beyond. So Michigan winning last week, I feel like they solidified themselves. They could play comfortably, but not too comfortably, of course. And, that Iowa defense is very good, but the offense, I just don't feel like can hold a flame up to Michigan's defense. So I feel like it's Michigan, and I don't feel like it'll be very close.
Yeah, I agree. Now, ACC final one, Louisville, Florida State. Who you got?
Yeah, I got Florida State in this one. They looked a little rocky last week with Tate Rodemaker at the quarterback position after Jordan Travis went down against North Alabama 2 weeks ago. But I feel like that was kind of bound to happen. You have a quarterback that hasn't really seen the field all year. That kind of throws a wrench into your offense naturally. And I feel like now that they kind of got the kinks out of the way, they could go into an ACC championship against Louisville, who just lost to Kentucky 38-31. So they're catching that team while they're down. And regardless, I feel like Florida State would be in a great position. And I feel like they are this week. I'm going Seminoles.
Yeah, I completely agree. As much as I like Louisville, as much as I want Louisville to win this game, I just think the talent on Florida State is going to be too much to handle it at this moment.
Yeah, so we got a good slate of conference championships. We're definitely going to be entertained on Friday and Saturday. So it's going to be fun, man. I can't wait to see how it unfolds. And, this time next week, we'll know who those four teams are sitting in the college football playoff.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait.